On today's episode of Macro to Micro, we're going to be taking a look at the city of Surprise, Arizona, the little obscure northwest corner of the Phoenix metro. And what we're looking at is we're looking to see if there are any variations in this little bit of the city, or if it's tracking along with what the total of the Phoenix metro is doing in regards to the housing market. So let's jump right in. What we're going to do is we're going to look at our leading indicators, what's happening right now that will cause something to happen in the future, and what's happened and is telling us about what we're doing in our market. So jumping in, we're looking at active listing counts per week. And what you notice here in this trend is that the red line is 2022. And yes, we had an incredible bump in inventory, a lot of people deciding to sell their homes, recognizing the top of the market, and then it shifted at the end of the year and we started to dip off. And we're dipping off all the way into this year so far. We started normal with a bump in inventory up until about the week 4 of January, and then since then we're trailing down. Part of that could be because sellers don't know where they're going to go, and part of that could be, hey, the market is kind of crazy right now. So we know that there isn't much inventory in the market, or it's trailing off. Let's look at how many new homes are being listed and what those sellers are doing. What you can see here is that we started the year off with this orange line looking pretty normal, and we're actually right in the realm of what we should be doing for new listings in this little small marketplace. Disregard that 20 down there. We need this week to finish out to get the full picture of what's happening. But ultimately what we see here is that there's an adequate supply of new homes coming into the market, but the number of homes in the market in total, it's coming down. Well, that's because somebody is absorbing them. And that would be looking at the listings under contract. And under contract means that a buyer has decided this is the house they want to pursue. They've written an offer, and perhaps they're in negotiations through inspection, or they're waiting for escrow to close. That's our brown line here. And you can see we followed the same pattern as the last 2 years, those 2 crazy hot years. And we jumped up and right into what would be considered a normal range, at least compared to those. So the buyers are absorbing those new listings as fast or faster, in this case, than what would happen in the past, which is why our total count is coming down. When you take how many people are buying the homes and how many people are listing, and you divide those two numbers together, you get what's called the contract ratio. And this ratio is used to help determine really what state of a market we're in. And when you look at the graph here, we start, or bar graph, whatever you want to call this guy, we start back in 2022 in this maximum crazy, insane market, and it dips all the way down to that buyer's market here in November for just a couple of weeks. And what we've had since then is we've had this gradual warming into a warm and then almost touching here at the end into a hot market. And is it hot? Not really. We're pretty close to the edge here. When you look at what's happened with inventory dropping out, we're seeing the sales price modulate. We peaked way back here in May and it has been dropping pretty consistently since then, bouncing around from week to week until January. In January, we've started to pick up steam from an average sales price per square foot of $217 all the way up to now $226 a month, or $226 a square foot, which is a pretty decent bump. We're talking about almost $10 a square foot. That's a big change in pricing, which tells us that the buyers, again, are in the market. There is demand, or that's yet to be seen with what interest rates are doing right now. So let's look at the actual index and see if we see a pattern. So you take your contract ratio and you get your numbers divided between supply and demand, and the Cromford report puts together an index. This index is a true leading indicator of what's happening following our market. And the pink line here, this is coming into 2023. And what you see is that we've been just flirting with the buyer's market here at the bottom. We were technically in a full buyer's market in Surprise all the way up until about February when we came into balance, and then coming into today, 108.4, that's really on the edge of a seller's market. Remember, what you're looking for is under 90 is a buyer's market, over 110 is a seller's market, 90 to 110, that's your balance. And when you're looking at our gauges here, you can see we're just barely in that balance area at 108.4 here in Surprise. If there's less supply and demand were to pick up at all, and you can see demand, we're almost right into balance, then we're going to move more steadily into a seller's market, albeit a weak seller's market, but nonetheless. If you have a city that you're interested in finding more specific information about, let me know in the comments, shoot me a message, or reach out. We'll see you in the next video.